This video is on ratio tables. Specifically, this video is on how to create a ratio table for an exponential function. So first, what exactly is a ratio table? A ratio table is just a table of values with a ratio column. Let's give an example of this. Let's say that you are asked to create a ratio table for f of x equals 7 times 2 to the x power. Let's cover this for now. Okay, so let's put some values in for our x. I'm going to go with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, so now if I take my x value and let's put it into the equation. So 2 to the 0 power, that equals 1 times 7. 1 times 7 is 7. So then your f of x is 7 when x equals 0. Repeat when x is equal to 1. 2 to the 1 power is 2. 2 times 7, 14. If x equals 2, 2 to the second power is 4. 4 times 7, 28. Continue with a third power. And we'll go to the fourth power. Okay. So that right there is a table of values. To make this into a ratio table, we have to put in a ratio column now. The ratio column, I'm going to have notation be this. And for this ratio column, you're just trying to figure out to go from this value to this value. You're multiplying by how much? So 7 times what gets you 14? It's 2. 14 times 2 gets you 28. 28 times 2, 56. 56 times 2 gets you 112. Often, instead of having your ratio column listed like this, instead they'll put 3 columns like this. I'm just showing you a different way of visually writing it. Instead of writing it like that, people often will write it as a separate column, symbol still the same. And instead of writing it between the 7 and 14 like this, they just put it next to the 7. So it's still the same idea though. 7 multiplied by what gets you 14? That's times 2. And then 14 times what to get you 28? 28 times 2 to get you 56. 56 times 2 to get you the 112. These arrows are not actually written. I'm writing it for the purpose of this video, just to show you exactly how I'm getting that to. All right. So this is if you have an equation and you're asked to create a ratio table, this is how you would do it. Let's say that you already have a table and you're asked to create a ratio column for the table below. Okay. So once again, I am just figuring out 15 multiplied by what will get you 75. 75 multiplied by what gets you 375, etc. Okay? Now, here, if you could just do it in your head, perfect. That's perfectly fine. But let's say, for example, you can't actually do this in your head. How would you find out what our ratio is? Well, let me put a value r here, just as a variable. And I know that 15 times r will get me 75. So let me write an equation for that. So I know that 15 multiply times r is going to equal my 75. Okay, well, all I have to do here is solve for r. Since we have r times 15 to get my r by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 15. 15 times r divided by 15 just becomes 1r, or just an r. 75 divided by 15 gets me 5. So my r is 5. Another way you could have done this is, if going in this direction is multiply, 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 you could have gone backwards and just said 75 divided by what gets you 15. And you could set up an equation like this as well. If you continue to do this, you would notice that this is also times 5. 75 times 5 gets you 375. 375 times 5 gets you 1,875. And this is also multiply 5 down here. Once again, you may end up seeing this in this fashion, in this format. And then the 5s would just go here. 15 times 5 is 75. 75 times 5 is 375. 375 times 5 is 1,875. And 1,875 times 5 gets you 9,375. When you see it in this format right here, you'll notice that, let's say I didn't have this dot, 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 and we just had those values, that this very last position right here is blank. So this is how you basically create a ratio table. All you do is first create a normal table of values, just like you've done before, and then you just add a ratio column.